ሰላም ጤና ይስጥልኝ የተወደዳችሁ የሮሃ ቤተሰቦች ይህ የመአዛ እንግዳ የተሰኘው ፕሮግራማችን ነው። በዛሬ ፕሮግራማችን ከአቶ ቴዎድሮስ ትርፌ ጋር ቆይታ የምናደርግ ይሆናል። ከአቶ ቴዎድሮስ ትርፌ ጋር ቆይታ የምናደርግበት ወይም ትኩረት ያደረግንበት ርዕሰ ጉዳይ በሰሞኑን ከድርድሩ ጋር ተያይዞ እሳቸው የሚመሩት የትሪፕል ኤ ወይም አማራ አሶሲዬሽን ኢን አሜሪካ የተሰኘው ድርጅት ካወጣው ደብዳቤ ጋርና አቋሞች ጋር በተያያዘ ይሆናል። እስከ ፕሮግራማችን ፍጻሜ አብራችሁ እንድትቆዩ እየጋበዝኩኝ በመጀመሪያ እስቲ አቶ ቴዎድሮስን እንተዋወቃቸው።
አቶ ቴዎድሮስ ትርፌ በቀድሞ በጌምድር ክፍለ ሀገር ወልቃይት ጠገዴ ቢወለዱም በህወሓት አገዛዝ ምክንያት ትብታቸው ከተቀበረበት ምድር ተሳደዋል፣ ቤተሰቦቻቸውንም አጥተዋል። አማራ በመሆናቸው ብቻ ከአያት ቅድመ አያቶቻቸው የወልቃይት ምድር በለጋ ዕድሜያቸው በግፍ ተሳደው የወጡት አቶ ቴዎድሮስ ትርፌ በዘመናቸው ሁሉ አማራንም ሆነ ወልቃይትን ዘንግተው አያውቁም። ክፉና ደጉን መለየት ከጀመሩበት ጊዜያቸው ጀምሮ የምቾት ኑሯቸው ሳያጓጓቸው ዕውቀትና ጊዜያቸውን ለአማራ የሰጡ ስለመሆናቸው ስራቸው ያው ምስክር ነው።
Since the establishment of Tigray People's Liberation Front in their 1976 manifesto, they labeled their struggle as anti-Amara oppressors. And in order to achieve their struggle, they must destroy the old and the dominant Amara culture, which represents over 30% of the Ethiopian population, and replace it by a new and revolutionary culture. It is only through this that they may be able to secede from Ethiopia and establish the Republic of Tigray. The TPLF-led government has forcefully annexed historical Amara lands of Wolqayt, Tegede, Humara, Tzelemt, and Raya Azebo to Tigray. Under the late Prime Minister Meles Zenawi, the TPLF transferred thousands of Tigray settlers to the annexed Amara land in an attempt to change the demographic makeup of the region. In 2015, under the guidance of the Ethiopian Constitution's covenants, the Amara people organized themselves and petitioned the Ethiopian government to have the Wolqayt region to rejoin the Amara state. The response by TPLF was to kidnap the officers of the Wolqayt Amara Identity Committee in the middle of the night in 2016 and charge them with terrorism. These officers were named in a joint letter to the UN Human Rights Council by 15 human rights organizations, including Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International. They are Colonel Demek Azodu, who is the face of the Amara resistance, Getachew Adame, Atalay Zafe, Mebratu Getahun, Alena Shama, Adisu Serebe, and Nega Bantihun. My family is from Wolqayt. I myself was born in the Wolqayt city of Humara. Some of the men arrested are either related to me or close to my family. The chairman, Getachew Ademe, was a student of my father's. Nega Bantihun is my cousin. Their only crime is being Amara and petitioning the government for the Wolqayt region to be rejoined to Amara state. I have family members who have fled Ethiopia to neighboring countries because they are being hunted down. One escaping with bullet wounds. I have had to collect money to send to these young men who have fled to Sudan, Kenya, and Uganda. It has been both financially and emotionally challenging for us. But Wolqayt and Raya Azebo are not the only areas where ethnic cleansing and genocidal acts have been committed against Amaras.
በዚህም ወልቃይትን ከአማራ ርስትነቷ ወደ ትግራይ አካልነት የወሰዳትን ህወሓት በበሰለ የፖለቲካ አተያይና በዳበረ ማስረጃ በዓለም አደባባይ ሲያሳጡና ሲያጋልጡ የኑሩ ድንቅ አማራ ልጅ ናቸው። አሁንም የአማራውን ጉዳይ ከግል ጉዳያቸው የሚያስቀድሙ መሆናቸውን የሚያውቋቸው ይናገራሉ። ከአሜሪካ ስቴት ዲፓርትመንት እስከ ቢቢሲና አልጀዚራ ድረስ የአማራን ጉዳይ በማስተጋባት እውነቱን ዓለም እንዲያውቀው እያደረጉ እንዲሁም የአማራ ትግል መሬት እንዲዝ የለፉ ቀደምት የአማራ ታጋይ ናቸው አቶ ቴዎድሮስ ትርፌ። በተጨማሪም በኢትዮጵያ የተለያዩ ክፍሎች የሚፈጸሙ አማራ ተኮር የዘር ጭፍጨፋዎችን በማውገዝና በማጋለጥ ወገናዊ አለኝታነታቸውን አሳይተዋል። በአሁኑ ሰዓትም የአማራ ማህበር በአሜሪካ አማራ አሶሲዬሽን ኦፍ አሜሪካ ሰብሳቢና ፌዴሬሽን ኦፍ አማራ ኢን ኖርዝ አሜሪካ ፕሬዝዳንት ሆነው እያገለገሉ ይገኛሉ።
ተመልሰናል ተመልካቾቻችን። እንግዲህ ወደ መጀመሪያ ጥያቄ አልፋለሁ።
So thank you for being with us. Thank you for your time, Teddy. So my first question is about that you released previously, and I know that you deliver for different international organizations, including the AU. So what I want to know and what people want to know is how it is founded, how the foundation going on, and what is the purpose of this Amhara people negotiation and delegation team. We just want to know how it is found and what is the purpose, what is its final goal, what is the final achievement of this negotiation group.
That's an excellent question, Maza. First, I want to thank you for inviting me to your program to this very, very important matter for Amaras, but also for Ethiopia and the entire Horn of Africa region. Regarding the establishment of the Amhara People's Negotiation Delegation, I'm going to step back a bit and take you on a to go back to the early 1990s when the negotiation occurred between the TPLF and the Oromo Liberation Front that brought us this ethnic apartheid system into this country. As all Ethiopians are well aware, when the TPLF was coming into power at that time, there was a negotiation between two parties that was mediated and facilitated by the international community, namely the United States and London. That was between the Tigray People's Liberation Front, or TPLF, and the Oromo Liberation Front, or the OLF. These were the two main actors as well as the international community. After that, the result of that, this ethnic apartheid system was imposed on the Ethiopian people. This ethnic apartheid system was dividing Ethiopia along arbitrary ethnic boundaries and minoritizing Amaras across all Ethiopia, resulting in millions of us being essentially within their own country. Following that, resulting in a genocide against the Amhara people. Now, the genocide has started much earlier, but it was really isolated. The genocide and ethnic cleansing and the targeted killing, activity-based killing against Amaras initially was focused in Wolkai area by the TPLF, of course, in some areas of Raya. And the OLF also began some of this targeted killing in the current so-called Oromia region right now, and in the 80s before the negotiations in the 90s. But as a result of that negotiation, because Amaras were not represented, what you have is an ethnic apartheid system, millions of Amaras becoming stateless, including non-Amaras as well if they live outside of their so-called designated ethnic. Amaras has had, voiced concerns at that time, concerning the concern being that this system is going to lead into disintegration of this country. And that's really is eventually what we have. There are many international observers that say that Ethiopia was peaceful before the current round of war, but it was not peaceful at all. There was a huge amount of human rights violations that were being committed by the TPLF, mainly, and some of the armed groups, and this has been recorded and documented. There have been protests as well, and main targets. The main target group was, of course, Amharas at that time. So we stand as Amaras what it means to not be represented. We were not represented at that negotiation table in the 90s, and the result was a genocide. And the reason why Amharas began to organize, especially in this current round in the early 2016, is because we know what the implications are. We don't want a repeat of that history. We needed to stop this Amhara genocide. This is targeted based massacres against Amaras and suppression of rights. So Amaras across the globe began to organize in 2016. Massive protests led to the fall of the TPLF. Following, we had a war. We're with right now. The international community needs to understand is that the largest impacted by this war are the people. Nearly 7 million Amaras need, food assistance. This is larger than the entire population of Tigray. Of course, that we know also the Tigray people are suffering. The Amhara people are suffering. And so the reason why we established this Amhara People's Negotiation Delegation is to ensure that we don't have a repeat of what happened in the 90s. We want the future of Amaras to be bright. We want the future of Ethiopia to be bright. We want Ethiopia to be peaceful. We want it to be maintain its sovereignty. And the only way that can happen is if Amaras are active participants, independent active participants in this negotiation. Amaras have suffered greatly during this war. There are thousands of Amaras, Fanos, that were at the front lines fighting against the TPLF invasion. There are thousands of Amara special forces that died fighting against the TPLF invasion and the Oromo Liberation Army invasion. There are thousands of Amaras that were massacred by both the TPLF and the Oromo Liberation Army. There are thousands of Amara women that were raped by the TPLF. Billions of dollars worth of civilian infrastructure that were destroyed. Amaras are not being killed because they're Ethiopians or because of a particular, religion that they're a particular religious faith that they have. They're being killed simply because of their ethnic identity. And Amaras have unique issues that need to be addressed in this negotiation so that we can have peace in this country. And so, as an organization, the Amara Association of America reached to Amara organizations across the globe, Amara-centric medias, Amara activists, Amara opposition political party leaders to discuss this issue, to discuss this matter. How can we ensure key issues that Amaras hold dear, key issues that we need represented, that we need protected? How can we ensure that that is represented in the peaceful negotiation so that there can be peace to Amaras and then also peace to this country? And what we agreed on is that Amaras must be represented in this negotiation, in this peace process. Let's just call it peace process. We all came to that consensus. And there is a consensus on what those key issues are. This is not something that was established independently. This is something, this establishment came as a result of a conversation that has been had for almost a year. And I know I've been speaking for a long time, but this really requires a detailed explanation. Our first conversation with the State Department, face-to-face conversation, was December of 2021 with Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary Irv Masinga, who is the number 2 in the Bureau of African Affairs. We brought up a lot of issues, but this was one of the main issues that we addressed. And then in March of 2022, we also had a conversation with PDAS Masinga, with Amara leaders from the United States, representing the major Amara organizations in the United States. And we brought this matter to his attention. And he did ask a question: who would represent Amaras? And we told him we are working on that, because we had been working on this issue. And when Special Envoy to the Horn of Africa, Ambassador Mike Hammer, was brought into this position, we had met with him at least on 2 occasions to discuss this matter. And we had also, as an organization, issued a statement on July 1st. 28 Amara organizations from Ethiopia and the diaspora sent a letter to the Special Envoys demanding that Amaras be included in this process. So this has been going on for a long time. As a result of that conversation, both internally within the Amara community, Amara organizations, Amara activists, Amara-centric media, Amara opposition political party members, we decided that this was a necessity and that our unique issues must be represented in order to have peace in Ethiopia. And as a result of that, we established this delegation. Of course, the leadership team are 4 individuals: General Tafara Mamo, who was the leader of the Amara Special Forces, who bravely was fought off the invasion by the TPLF. Dr. Desalegn Janet Danyo, who is a member of parliament, and also Dr. Wendessen Asafa, and then including myself. But we have also about 40 other people that are supporters of this delegation that are providing technical assistance to this delegation. Now, let me spell out some of these unique issues that are unique to Amaras that we want represented, the reason for our demand to be represented in this peace process. The issue of Raya, the Raya Amara identity issue, is a uniquely Amara issue. The issue of the Walqaid Amara identity issue is a uniquely Amara issue. The issue of justice and accountability for not just the genocide that has occurred in the context of this war, or since Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came into power, but over the past 30 years, is a uniquely Amara issue. The issue of redress and restitution for billions of dollars worth of civilian infrastructure is an Amara issue. The issue of what is happening to Amaras in the so-called Oromia region is a uniquely Amara issue that the Prosperity Party is not going to bring up. The issue of the ethnic cleansing, targeted killing of Amaras in Benshangul Gumuz is a uniquely Amara issue that the Prosperity Party is not going to raise, only an Amara delegation would raise. The issue of Addis Ababa is a uniquely Amara issue that the Prosperity Party is not going to raise, but the Amara People's Negotiation Delegation raise. It is for this reason, all these reasons that I've listed, that we feel it is critically important for peace to come to Ethiopia and the broader Horn of Africa, that Amaras must be represented in this, and that the Amara People's Negotiation Delegation should be included. It is in the best interest of everyone, not just Amaras.
Good, thank you for the details, Tere. I have one question on the issues that you raised before I go to my other questions. You've been raising the issues of Oromia, the issues of Benshangul Gumuz regional states, which is happening, and ethnic cleansing there. So are you going to discuss these questions, or are you going to negotiate on these points with the TPLF? Do you think that is related to them? I think those questions must be discussed or with Prosperity Party. What is the relationship between three or two issues and TPLF?
Of course, this would be an issue that we would raise with the Prosperity Party. But also, don't forget, the TPLF has a formal alliance with the Oromo Liberation Army, and so the TPLF is engaged in atrocities against us within the so-called Oromia region and also in Benshangul Gumuz region, because the perpetrator, though directly, is the Oromo Liberation Army, but they are in formal alliance with the TPLF. So in order to ensure that Amaras are protected and are not a target in these areas, we will raise this not just with the Prosperity Party, but also with the TPLF. So with both parties. And one of the things that's different from the Amara delegation, Ma'aza, is that, we would expand the agenda. We are not going to limit ourselves to the agenda that the TPLF will bring. The TPLF is going to bring their own agenda. The Prosperity Party, we don't even know what their agenda is. What has the Prosperity Party been saying? We will meet anywhere and anytime without any preconditions. So what does that mean as far as the Prosperity Party is concerned? Raya is on the agenda. Walqaid is on the agenda. Anything that means the agenda. For us, Walqaid is a red line. Raya is a red line. The issue of the identity-based killings and genocide against Amaras in the so-called Oromia region and Benshangul Gumuz region has to be addressed. Why only focus in one area and exclude other areas? We can't. If we want peace to come to this country. So are we going to say, let's solve the issue in northern Ethiopia and leave these other issues where Amaras are being massacred on a daily basis, and then we potentially have another war? No, we want peace to come to this country. And if we want peace to come to this country, all of these issues must be addressed.
Good. The other question which is raised from different people is...
Just real quick, Ma'aza, so I don't forget. And one of the ways that these issues are going to be addressed is if we can, bring to the table finally the root cause of all of these issues is this ethnic apartheid system that was imposed on all Ethiopians. And if we don't bring this issue to the forefront, we're not going to address the key issues that Ethiopia is facing. And so that is also another important issue that this Amara People's Negotiation Delegation would bring as an agenda to this peace process, because it is critical not only that that we have this discussion with the TPLF representatives and the Prosperity Party representatives, but as well as with all the international monitors that would be present, because we can't assume that these international actors understand the issues that Ethiopia is facing. What we have learned, what we have understood from communicating with the international diplomatic community is that they think that the issues that Ethiopia is facing is simple. It is not. It is much more complex. It involves many actors, and it is also a systematic issue. And it's important for us to be present to explain these issues and to try to find a solution to this matter. So that is also another important issue that we will bring forward into this peace process, is this ethnic-based constitution that was imposed on the Ethiopian people.
The other question, which is raised by different government bodies, even NAMA leaders and other people, are asking the war was between TPLF and the rest of Ethiopians. If Amhara people are asking to have their own delegators in the negotiation and the rest of Ethiopians are represented by the ruling party, this cannot be managed in a fair way, because the rest of the nations and nationalities or regional governments or groups may ask such kinds of delegations in the negotiation. So what do you comment on this, Teddy?
First, the TPLF attacked the Northern Command of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. And that is not only an attack against the ENDF, but it is also an attack against the Ethiopian state. At the same time, the TPLF invaded the Amhara region, and the Amhara people responded to that attack. Remember that the TPLF clearly stated, documented in a video, that they were going to, one of their objectives was revenge against Amharas. Because when the ENDF, in that surprise attack, when we had dozens of ENDF soldiers killed, thousands that were held captive by the ENDF, and when the attacks came, it was the Amhara people who raised in defense of the ENDF and the Ethiopian state, and drove off and freed, Wolkite and most of Raya. And the Ethiopian people, the Amhara people did that. They rose up to the occasion to defend the Ethiopian state, really essentially against disintegration. But the TPLF said they were going to come in and basically revenge against the Amhara people. And they committed atrocities against the Amhara people. Thousands of Amharas were massacred. Thousands of Amhara women were raped. Millions were displaced. Civilian infrastructure in the billions of dollars worth was destroyed. The Amhara people had no choice to organize themselves and rise up and defend themselves against this direct attack against themselves. The Amhara people were fighting for survival. For the Amhara people, this was a matter of survival. This fight against the TPLF and the Oromo Liberation Army. Mind you, when the Amhara people rose up to defend themselves and the state, when the Prosperity Party had a breathing room, what did they do? Arresting Fano patriots who were at the front lines and gave up their life to defend themselves, their community, and this country. Thousands of Amaras who were university professors, journalists such as yourself, students, opposition political party members were rounded up and arrested. One of our delegation members, the prior head of the Amara Special Forces, was abducted and beaten. How many journalists have we had arrested? So the Prosperity Party does not have the legitimacy to represent Amara people's interests in this process. While releasing TPLF senior leadership to negotiate with them in this peace process, they were arresting Amaras by the thousands in Amhara region, in Addis Ababa, and other parts of Ethiopia. And if we have to be frank, let's be honest, those individuals or groups who are trying to hang the legitimacy or anchor the legitimacy of the Prosperity Party on the elections are no different than those TPLF supporters who are trying to anchor the legitimacy of the TPLF on the illegal election that the TPLF had. When they had the election, they won over 98% of the returns. When the Prosperity election, they won nearly 90% of the returns. Let's be honest here. Let's speak frankly. Ethiopia did not have a free and fair election. There is nowhere in the world where there is a free and fair election that a political party wins 90% or more of the returns. The legitimacy of the Prosperity Party does not come from the election. And no neutral observer, no observer would ever look at the behavior of the Prosperity Party against the Amhara people and can consider that the Prosperity Party represents the interests of the Amhara people. As I said earlier, the Prosperity Party has said they will meet the TPLF anywhere, anytime, without any preconditions. The Amhara People's Negotiation Delegation has conditions. And so that is the main difference between us. And we do not believe that the Prosperity Party has the legitimacy to represent the Amhara people. If you have seen anyone who has seen the response from the Amhara community to the establishment of the Amhara People's Negotiation Delegation, will see that the response has been overwhelmingly positive. Why? Because all the various Amhara segments and communities have been contacted. The leaders, the Amhara organizations have been contacted, and they have been part of this process. Right now, nearly 20 Amhara organizations have endorsed the formation of the Amhara People's Negotiation Delegation. We have members of the Amhara opposition political party who are part of this negotiation delegation. And this week, a letter will be released where members of parliament and Amhara region council members will express support for the Amhara People's Negotiation Delegation. So this delegation has wide support by the Amhara people globally. So this delegation has the right to be in this peace process and negotiate the interests not only of Amharas, but also the future of Ethiopia.
Good. About the letter, did you contact or did you send the letter for the PP or the Prosperity Party or for the ruling party, by the way? So did you address them through your letters?
If so, we know that they're. No, we didn't send the letter directly to the Prosperity Party. Now the Prosperity Party is addressed in that letter, but the main groups that we addressed in that letter, individuals, were the various special envoys from the US, the UK, the EU, and the African Union. These are the mediators. These are the facilitators of this peace process, and our objective was to demand the inclusion of this delegation into this peace process. And so we have received a response from the State Department. They are, not opposed to the inclusion of the Amara delegation. There are some technical issues that have to be worked out. Obviously, as Amara people, we have to put the pressure on. We know where the obstacles for the Amhara delegation to be part of this process is coming from, and we are working very hard to remove those obstacles. And so, as a people, we have to continue to put the pressure. This delegation is representing the interest of all Amaras. We believe, as Amara community, there is a consensus on the issues in the letter. We believe it is in the best interest of Amaras to continue to support this delegation. So their issues, which also includes Ethiopia, are rightly represented in this in the peace process. But we are actively engaging the international community, and we're grateful for the wide support that we have received from the Amhara people and also from the various organizations that have endorsed the delegation.
Thank you. The thing that I want to add about the delegates, I know all of you personally, I know you, but there are people who are raising questions about how you get the representation in order to be a delegator in the negotiation. So do you have an explanation for these issues? Because everybody who works for the cause of Amhara or even for the cause of Ethiopia thinks that he can or she can be as a representative. But you guys bring 4 people to the front and you say that there are 40 people at the back. But the question, how is the representation? What was the criteria in order to be a delegate to the negotiation? Do you have an explanation for this?
As I said earlier, the establishment of this delegation was by contacting the leaders of the Amara organizations first. And so we reached out to them and spoke to them and contacted them. It wasn't something that was done over a few weeks, but as I explained earlier, this is an issue that we have been discussing as organizations within the Amhara movement since 2021, when we saw that that the international community was pushing for a negotiation settlement between the actors that are involved in the conflict. So, as I said earlier, this is something that we had been addressing with or discussing with the State Department for close to a year now, and discussing within the Amara within the Amara organizations that are part of the movement. So this is also something that we discuss with Amara opposition political party members, the various segments of NAMA. Even if some of the members that have now expressed opposition, when we had talked to them initially, they were very supportive. They were very supportive of this. The majority of the NAMA people, NAMA members, and those that are, who are members of parliament and council members, are supportive of the establishment of the Amara People's Negotiation Delegation. So we contacted the organizations. We contacted the media, Amara-centric medias, the Amara activists, opposition political party members, to get a consensus on this issue. On the establishment of the Amara People's Negotiation Delegation and who the leaders, should be. And there was wide consensus. And that's exemplified by the endorsement this delegation has received. As I said, from, I think now, almost 20 Amara organizations. As I said earlier, 19th, 28 Amara organizations, both from Ethiopia and the diaspora, had written a letter to the special envoys demanding for the inclusion of Amaras in this peace process. That is the voice of the Amhara people. These organizations represent the voice of the Amhara people, all the sectors of the Amhara people. So that's how this delegation was established, 4 people didn't just go and say, oh, we're going to nominate ourselves. There was a process that we followed. There was also a criteria for these, for who should be essentially in part of the leadership team. And the individuals had to meet that criteria to be part of this leadership team. So that is how this the leadership team was formed. Everyone met this criteria. There is wide support from the Amara organizations, the Amara activists, and also the Amara opposition political leadership.
Yeah, good. But did you include people who are not considering or represent themselves as Amhara, but who works or who entertains the cause of Amhara? Did you include or did you contact such kinds of individuals? Because it might help you and when you take or when you bring up to the international arena, so you view this non-Amhara people or people who are not consider themselves as an Amhara, but as an Ethiopian, they entertain the cause of Amharas. Did you have such kinds of people in your team?
Well, no, we don't have them as part of the team, but our team is contacting those individuals, to explain, what this delegation is about, the intent of this delegation, and also to, endorse this delegation and so to support this delegation. This delegation not only has the best interests of Amaras, but this delegation also has the best interests of Ethiopia at heart. We know that some of these individuals at heart are against this ethnic apartheid system. This is the only delegation that would bring this agenda forward. So anyone who has questions about this delegation that is not part of the Amara movement, look, we invite you to contact us. We're more than happy to have a conversation with you, and we hope to receive your support and your endorsement. We're not finished contacting individuals and organizations in Ethiopia and outside of Ethiopia. We're continuing to have this conversation, with all Ethiopians who want to know more about this delegation, and also to non-Ethiopians, so that they can fully understand what the purpose of this delegation is. As I said earlier, one of our concerns has been that, the non-Ethiopians really do not understand the complexities of this war. Amaras really are an independent actor in this conflict. If, for example, us coming out of this process, if there's an agreement between these two political parties on Wolkait that is not going to make the Amhara people happy, what do you think the response of the Amhara people will be? If there is an agreement on Raya that is not seen as favorable by the Amhara people, what do you think the response by the Amhara people will be? If the TPLF leadership are not going to be held accountable for the crimes that they have committed against the Amhara people, what do you think the response of the Amhara people will be? Do you really think that there's going to be peace in this country? Do people not think that there's 50 million Amharas are going to be angry? There will be anger, there will be disappointment, and there will be a response as a result of that. And we want to avoid that. One thing also that is critically important that I forgot to mention, one of the reasons why this delegation feels that we need to be represented, as I said earlier, there are thousands of Amaras that have been rounded up since May and imprisoned without proper due process. Most of them, majority of them actually, are Fano patriots, but also journalists, opposition political party members, any Amara that was critical of Abiy. We want to be at that peace process to fight for the freedom of these individuals, because these individuals have not committed a crime. What was the crime that you committed, Ma'aza Muhammad, for you to be imprisoned over and over and over again? And oftentimes, when the court issues your release on bail, that you would not even be that you would not be released. So this has to stop. This has to end. And the only people that can properly address this are the delegation that has been established by Amara organizations and Amara opposition political party members across the globe. And we believe that this is really in the interest of Ethiopia. And we hope to have the support of all Ethiopians.
Good. The other question is about AAA as an organization. You guys as an individual, you've been supporting the war led by Prosperity Party or the ruling party. But when it comes to the negotiation, you are raising a question of representation. So people ask, why this time? Previously, you were supporting, even officially, you were supporting the war which is led by the Prosperity Party. What about the negotiation? What the problem if the negotiation is led by the Prosperity Party? What's the difference here?
So a few things that we would like to make clear as a delegation. Number one, just like in the 1990s, the Ethiopian government was not represented. The Ethiopian government is not represented right now in this peace process. Even though the elections were not free and fair, Parliament has not taken this matter. Parliament has not debated this matter of negotiating with the TPLF. They have not removed the TPLF as a terrorist organization, which Parliament designated. So in actuality, the Prosperity Party is negotiating with an organization that is still listed designated as a terrorist organization by Parliament. Parliament has not approved the slate of individuals to negotiate with the TPLF. This is exclusively a prosperity-led process. So we don't believe that the Ethiopian government is represented in this peace process, just like the Ethiopian government was not represented in the 90s in London. Now, we don't support war. What we supported was the Amaras to defend themselves because they were fighting for survival, because the Amaras were brought into this war. Amaras did not ask this war. The TPLF invaded the Amhara region. Amaras have been fighting for the freedom of Waqayit and Raya for nearly 30 years. They liberated their lands in collaboration and working with the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. And Amaras support the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. There is a common interest in defeating the TPLF, collaborating with and working with the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. I think we have to separate that from whether Amaras, support the Prosperity Party or view the Prosperity Party can legitimately represent the interests of Amaras in any peace process. We don't believe so, and we do not believe the Amhara people have confidence that the Prosperity Party will represent the interests of the Amhara people. There are common interests on some issues with regards to this war. But also there's a lot of issues where the Amhara people and the Prosperity Party do not see the same. For example, do the Amhara people support the Prosperity Party arresting all these Spano patriots? No. Do the Amhara people support the Prosperity Party when they're arresting Amhara journalists, students, professors, opposition political party members? No. Do the Amhara people support, the genocide against the Amhara people in Oromia, in Benshangul Gumuz region? No. And let's be clear. Let's be honest here. The Prosperity Party is complicit in the genocide against Amaras. The people are not different. The same people that are part of the Prosperity Party serving the interests of Abiy Ahmed are the same people that were serving under the TPLF. The people have not changed. They just changed their names, the name of the party that they're a part of. So Amara people know these individuals. We know that these individuals have not been working for the Amara cause, but against Amaras. So that's what, in the interest of Amaras, in the interest of Ethiopia, and the broader horn, that the Amara People's Negotiation Delegation should be part of this process.
Good. Did you get any feedback or?
Well, just very quickly, one of the also things that we have been consistent in saying is that let all the actors be part of this process. Eritrea should be invited to be part of this process. They have serious concerns about an interest in this conflict. To think that the TPLF and the Prosperity Party can come to some kind of agreement, and the Amaras will be accepting, the Afaris will be accepting, and the Eritreans will be accepting, is very naive.
But if you raise about the issue of Eritrea, if Eritrea is included in such kinds of negotiations, people may raise, or some people are raising about the issue of sovereignty. This is an internal issue, an internal war. So if we are going to include the Eritrean government, it will be the issue of sovereignty. How do you see this one?
In the 1990s, Eritrea was part of that process. The issue of sovereignty was not raised. I think what the focus of this peace process is that we want peace to come to this country, to Ethiopia. We want peace to come to this region. And if we want that, then all of the actors should be part of that process. The concerns of all the various actors should be discussed and addressed. And there is an opportunity. We should not lose that opportunity.
Okay. Did you get any responses or any feedbacks from those organizations that you address with your letters?
Yes, as I said earlier, we did get a response from the State Department. They said that they do not have any interest in excluding, Amaras. They want this to be an inclusive process, but there are, actors that do not want, paraphrasing here, that do not want Amaras to be included in that process, and this is something a hurdle that has to be, overcome, and we're going to work with these international actors to remove that hurdle. But we have to do our part as Amaras. We have to continue to put the pressure. We have to continue to escalate this matter so we can be part of this process, because we cannot take a risk of having another 30 or 50 years of genocide and oppression again. If we want a better future for Amaras, a better future for Ethiopians, Amaras have to be part of this process.
Yeah. Do you have finally? Do you have any?
Sorry, Ma'aza,
finally, do you have? Okay, it's okay. Do you have any other plan if, as we see, the Prosperity or the may not accept your representation or your delegation on the negotiation? And do you have any other plans if this doesn't work, if the later, or addressing the in letters and asking for this negotiation, if that doesn't work, what other plans do you have?
So, first, negotiations between warring actors can take weeks, months, or even years. So as a people, we have to be patient. These processes can take very, very long time. They can be very stressful, but it is something that we have to continue to push to be part of this process. We cannot afford to be excluded from this process, because then the survival of us, the survival of Amaras, the survival of Ethiopia is at risk. Stuff like, what are we going to be doing? We are going to continue to put the pressure. We're going to continue to, explain and educate why Amaras need to be part of this process. We have activities that are planned to continue to escalate this matter so that we are not ignored, so that we are, we can be part of this peace process. We believe, Ma'aza, that eventually that, everyone will come to an agreement that excluding Amaras is not in the best interest of Ethiopia or in the best interest of the Horn of Africa, and that this Amara People's Negotiation Delegation will be included in this peace process. So long as we can continue to engage our community, so long as we can continue to engage the international actors that are sponsoring this negotiation, and also our community continues to put that pressure and supports this delegation. And on the issue or the matter of the Amhara people supporting the delegation, I think there's no question about it now. I think it's very clear that there is overwhelming support for this delegation from the people. In terms of the Amhara organizations, there's overwhelming support from Amhara organizations for this delegation. We are working on the third leg, which is pushing these international actors to include Amaras in this process, and we are going to continue engagement. And we believe that we will overcome that hurdle and be part of this process because it is in the best interest of Amaras and also in the best interest of Ethiopia.
Thank you so much. If you have any message or anything to add on the discussion, or any message, any group of people, activists, or even the society to endorse these things, you can use the time.
Well, one of the things a few things I guess I'd like to say is, to the broader Amhara community, this is a delegation that represents issues that has broad support amongst the Amhara community. The issue of Wolkait, the issue of Raya, the issue of Amhara genocide, not just within Amhara region, but in Oromia, in Benishangul Gumuz, the issue of justice and accountability, the issue of the release of the thousands of Fanos and journalists and the critical voices against this government that are now in jail, the issue of this ethnic apartheid system, the issue of a better future for Amaras in Ethiopia. These are all important issues that has broad-based support by the Amhara people. So I ask the Amhara people to please continue to show your overwhelming support to this delegation, to non-Amaras. These are also issues that are important to you. Many Ethiopians who live outside of their so-called designated ethnic regions, have also lost citizenship rights, which is not right. If we want real democracy to come to Ethiopia, and if you want the removal of this ethnic apartheid system, which denies Ethiopians equal citizenship rights, you should support this delegation, because this is the only delegation that's going to bring this issue forward into this process to make sure that it is addressed, so that we can have a new system that provides equal citizenship to all Ethiopians, regardless of where they live in the country. So I invite you and I ask you to support this delegation. If we truly want a better Ethiopia, we must demand that Amaras are part of this process, because Amaras are the largest community that are impacted by this war, and the inclusion of Amaras in this process would be just. Exclusion of Amaras from this process would be unjust. a continuation of the injustice that has been committed against the Amhara people. And this is not going to bring lasting peace. This is not going to bring a better future to Ethiopia. That's why, as one of the delegation members, I'm asking everyone to support this. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tevi, for being with us.
Okay. Thank you, Ma'aza, for having me.
ተመልካቾቻችን የዛሬው ፕሮግራማችን ይህንን ይመስል ነበር። በሌላ ጊዜ ከሌላ እንግዳ ጋር እስከምንገናኝ ድረስ ሰላም።